What is good, TFA fam? Robbie Jeffries here with one Kevin Steele and Christian Welch. Welcome into our second rankings dispute video. Today we are talking tight ends. We're going position by position, kind of showing you guys the good and the bad side of these players. A lot of people talk just about, hey, why we like these players, why these players will be great for your fantasy team, but we don't always talk about the bad side. And that's what we're here to do today, give you great content. And so we are pumped up to talk about three tight ends here tonight. So let's dive right on in. The first guy, we have a little bit larger of a discrepancy, right? With tight ends, you don't have as many, right, as the wide receivers that we did previously, but we're still pretty split. Christian, you were at tight end 9 on Mike Gesicki. Kev, you were at tight end 13, and I'm all the way down at tight end 16 for Mike Gesicki. Underdog ADP is at tight end 11. Christian, let's shoot it over to you first. Why are you so high on Mike Gesicki at tight end 9?
Well, he really came on at the back end of last season once Tua got in there as the starter, and now we're having a full season with Tua as the starter. And like I said, it seemed like those guys had some chemistry at the back end of last season. The last 6 games of the year, Mike Gesicki was extremely productive. And then on the football end, I mean, this is a player that I loved. I mean, coming out of Penn State, this guy was an athletic freak. You know, not Kyle Pitts status, but, you know, kind of Kyle Pitts status before Kyle Pitts existed. This guy's combine numbers were insane. You know, so this is just an absolute freak tight end that's in the mold of the, you know, the George Kittles and the guys that we really love in fantasy. And, you know, he's been in the league for a few years now. He's gotten comfortable in that offense, and it seems like he's finally got some chemistry with the QB. So I'll take a guy that, you know, seems primed to really break out and enter the prime of his career.
Kev, we'll go to you next. Why are you kind of, you're right there in the middle. You're kind of consensus. What are your thoughts on Mike Gesicki?
Well, I think that having the new targets that they added, right, the new weapons, bringing in Will Fuller, I think is huge. And I think also, not to mention the fact that they brought, you know, Jalen Waddle also, you know, he's back. And so, or not back, but they drafted him. And so I don't think the opportunities are going to be there as plentiful as you may hope. Devontae Parker is still there. And so, I mean, he could end up being fourth in the team in targets, third or fourth in targets on this offense. And so while with tight ends, you know, it's not as, you know, it's not the end of the world. Like, he's not going to see 100 targets. We know that. But I mean, last year he only saw 86 targets, and I mean, 85 targets, was 12th among all tight ends. He was 10th in routes run, which are two things that I really look for in tight ends with a 16% target share. But I just think that it's possible that he could drop a little bit lower than that. You know, he was okay last year, 53 receptions, 703 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Like, that's fine for any tight end. Obviously, we're not talking about the upper echelon, you know, elite level tight ends. I don't mind taking a shot at him if you want to take a stab at him, but I just don't know with all the added weapons that they have there now. Like, I don't know if you're really going to be able to trust that on a week-to-week basis. Where last year he was kind of the guy for the most part, at least the number 1 or number 2 target. Now, I mean, you like I said, you could make a case that, you know, I think probably at least the number 3 target on this team, on a team that I don't know exactly how much they're going to throw the ball. I think it could be much more of a balanced attack with second year of Tua. You know, they have a pretty damn good defense that I could see them leaning on a little bit and running the football, and being just more of a balanced offense. And so with that being said, like, I think there's some other guys that I just value a little bit more than.
Yeah, Kev, and I'll echo a lot of those thoughts where, you know, Gesicki had a little bit more, he had less competition, right? So I think he had a little bit more of a target share when it was just Devontae Parker, a little bit of Preston Williams. It was kind of his show to have those 89 targets 2 years ago, 85 last season. And now we bring in the 2 weapons that you talked about. They're going to push the field. Yes, the counter argument is that will help him, but he already had 13.3 yards per reception. That's extremely high for a tight end. And I know he's not the traditional tight end. He's almost exclusively split out wide. I don't know how much more that can increase, but I'm just worried about where that volume goes. And so if you're talking about a guy that was already kind of end of tight end 1 status, he was kind of right on that fringe anyways. Now we lower that target share just a little bit, have different guys in there that can catch the ball and that Tua can lean on a little bit more. That's where I just kind of bump him outside of that tight end 1 range. And I think he's now in that pool where he can have, you know, tight end 8 weeks, but he can also, if he doesn't score and he only gets the 4 or 5 targets, he can also have tight end 20 weeks. And I know that's a big pool, but before they brought them in, I was thinking he's kind of in that tier where I think most weeks he's going to be a tight end 12 or better. And so he just kind of falls out of that just a little bit for me here in 2021. The next tight end we will talk about is Jonnu Smith. Obviously, we know he is in a new location there with the Patriots, him and Hunter Henry holding it down. Christian, you are the high guy again at tight end 11. Kev, you're at tight end 14. And once again, I'm the low guy here at tight end 18, with the tight end 17 being the underdog ADP, a little bit closer to the back end range of our three rankings. So I'm going to flip it, and I'll go first here. And my big knock here for Jonnu is that we're on one of the least pass happy teams in the NFL, right? With Cam at center. They have the second least attempts behind only the Baltimore Ravens. We now add in both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. And I get it. The wide receiver core isn't great, and they can use both these guys as the two main targets. But we're talking about a team that just doesn't have a ton of attempts to go around. And there's two good ones there at tight end. And then just the low passing TD percentage that Cam showed last year. No, I do not think it'll be 2.2%. Actually, last night I was talking about how I think he improves more to the league average of 4.5%, but we're still talking about him splitting those touchdown looks probably to Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Not to mention they brought in a couple of middling wide receivers. I will say they improved the wide receiver core. It's not fantastic by any means, but they definitely improved it. So if you're talking about the recipe for a good tight end, you want you want a high volume, you want a high touchdown volume. You want no competition at the position, and Jonnu kind of misses all three of those things that you want in your tight end to have top 12 potential. He has Hunter Henry there. His scoring potential in this type of offense probably isn't that high. If he gets 6, I think that would be a great season. And then his volume, I'm just not excited about either. So he is definitely down there at tight end 18, which sucks because I love Jonnu Smith. If Hunter Henry wasn't there, I would be a lot higher on him for sure. Kev, what are your thoughts?
Same. And, obviously I love Jonnu. I was very, very high on him last year. And I thought he was one of the breakout tight ends. And it was looking great for like the first 5 or 6 weeks. Like, okay, we're cooking with grease here. And then it sort of fell off after that. But I echo the same thing as you. I don't really have a whole lot new to put into that. I just think that, again, he's probably going to, cannibalize each other with him and Hunter Henry. I do think there's a scenario that they are used more like a wide receiver, especially Jonnu, with as athletic that he is. And they kind of go back to seeing things that we used to see, kind of the Aaron Hernandez type role, right? Back in the day, whenever it was Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, and I could see him getting touches out of the backfield as well. But I just don't know how high of a ceiling he really truly has. And again, unless an injury comes or this offense, unless they go to Mac Jones much sooner and then they decide to throw the ball at a much higher rate than I think we're expecting. So I think for the most part, lean on the defense, and run the football. I was what I would expect. So I don't think they're going to have a ton of goal line opportunity or a lot of opportunities. This isn't going to be a high scoring offense that's going to be dropping 30 points a week and anything like that. So as much as it pains me, because I love Jonnu Smith, the player, but I just can't really buy into. Again, I just think there's guys that I would just much, much rather have.
Christian, what do you got for us?
Yeah, nothing you guys said isn't true. I think we all like the athlete that Jonnu Smith is, and at times have, absolutely loved him as a potential breakout tight end. And, I think all of us can agree that the Patriots are pretty gross for fantasy football. None of us are getting excited about starting a New England Patriot. But the Patriots paid this man a lot of money. They paid him more than Hunter Henry. I think it was $50 million they gave this guy, and he only has 1,400 yards for his career receiving. So clearly they see something in this guy that allowed them to make that type of investment in him. And you guys have already brought up the wide receiver core here. I mean, this team does not have a receiver that's going to have 1,000 yards, in my opinion. Whatever we predict the Patriots are going to do, historically, Bill Belichick has shown us that we really had no idea. So I'm really just following the money here. They made a massive investment into Jonnu Smith. They also made a pretty good investment into Hunter Henry, but between the two, he's the better athlete. He got more money. Like Kev said, he's more dynamic. He's carried the ball out of the backfield at times in his career. He can line up more as a wide receiver. I just like the skill set that Jonnu brings to the table to do a lot of different things on the football field. And I think the Patriots value football players more so than they value, fantasy players more so than any franchise in the league. So at this point where I think all the tight ends are kind of gross, I'll take the guy that just got 50 million from a team that, could possibly get creative with him and, put together a nice puzzle of fantasy points somehow. At this point, we're just throwing darts, and I'll take the guy that just got paid $50 million.
Following the money is what Christian is doing. Never a bad strategy. Guys, let's turn it over to our third and final tight end here, and that's Tyler Higbee, who actually is tight end 8 in underdog ADP, and then we're all 3 lower than that. Kev, you're right behind at tight end 9. I'm at tight end 10, and then Christian, you're down there at tight end 14. So, Kev, let's shoot it to you first. What are your thoughts on Tyler Higbee and what he can do for fantasy rosters here in 2021?
I'm buying this offense. I love the Rams offense this year with Matt Stafford at quarterback. It's not that far off. I mean, you go back to 2019 where Tyler Higbee was, top 10 in fantasy points per game, 89 targets, 7th most among all tight ends. That was with Gerald Everett there. And now there's not another real tight end that we're truly worried about or in this wide receiver room. And it's still, the tight end, I am not saying whatsoever, because I do understand that Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are definitely the 2 target getters here in this offense, right? And that is not going to change. They are going to get the lion's share of the targets. But I still think that there is a scenario where we see Tyler Higbee get 80 to 90 targets, much like we did in 2019. He is definitely going to be somebody that he looks for inside the red zone. I actually think losing Cam Akers is actually a positive for this passing game. And so I think, I am like to the moon for this Rams offense. Stafford, Kupp, Woods, Higbee, give me all of them. I want all of this offense. I want all the exposure to this offense because, this is exactly what we're looking for. And they're not that expensive either. I think Kupp, last time I looked, was going 5th, 6th round, late 5th, early 6th. Woods going around earlier. And then you have Stafford going 9th, 10th round. Higbee's going, 8th, 9th round, somewhere right around there. And so I have no problem with doing that, especially with Jared Everett gone. And I just think that he's probably number 3 on this team in targets this year. And, it is going to be a big time threat downside the red zone. Jared Goff is gone. Matthew Stafford, I think could have the best year of his career this year. And, it wouldn't be surprising me if we see a very 2018 type offense from this Rams offense back whenever they were kind of back to the greatest show on turf.
Christian, as the low guy, kind of what's your counter? Why do you have him outside of your tight end 1 range?
I've just never loved him as a player. Yeah, I was a Gerald Everett guy when they were both on the Rams. I was one that was always in Everett's corner, even when it seemed Higbee was, the guy that was pulling ahead in that race. Higbee's been productive in his career, but to me, he's more like a Hunter Henry, a guy we were excited about, but he kind of just, stagnated at that 600-yard, 4 or 5 touchdowns and not really getting past there. But Kev brings up 2 great points. I mean, there are 2 big changes for Tyler Higbee this year. Gerald Everett is gone and Matthew Stafford is in. And those are 2 huge changes in his favor. And then the Akers injury, I mean, surely that's, less efficiency on the, rushing in the touchdowns. Maybe there's a few more passes to the tight ends in the red zone. So he's got a couple factors going his way. I've just never loved him as a player. So that's why he's just outside the tight end ones for me. But Kev brings up a lot of good points. He's got a lot of factors going his way this year.
Yeah, I mean, not much to add. You guys hit on it exactly correctly. And the biggest change I think that we need to definitely harp on is how much of a better quarterback I think Matthew Stafford is compared to Jared Goff. I mean, I think we saw Jared Goff get exposed the last couple of years and how much Sean McVay propped him up. And now we talk about just Matthew Stafford, who's been doing a lot with not as much in that Detroit offense. I think, Jared Goff threw 20 touchdowns last year. Matthew Stafford threw 26 with 60 less attempts. Just the touchdown efficiency is going to go up. So we could see this offense jump from 20-ish passing touchdowns to 30-ish, right? And if no Gerald Everett is there to split those tight end targets, red zone targets, I think a lot of that funnels to Tyler Higbee. And Christian, to kind of go back to your point, I agree with you. I didn't love the talent. Everybody was propping up Tyler Higbee last year based on his 5 games from 2019. And I was like, well, let's pump the brakes here. Gerald Everett's there. They still have, a lot of question marks. But now with him out of the way, I mean, we have 112 targets between the 2 that are up for grabs. And will Tyler Higbee get all of those 112? No. Can he get 85 of them? Yes, I think that's absolutely in the cards. And so if he gets that, he has a high touchdown potential. We're talking about an offense that I think will move the football a lot better than they did with Jared Goff. I'm just excited about that offense. Like Kev is, I'm glad we're not in a ton of leagues together because we'll be fighting for a lot of these same players. So yeah, I'm excited because that rest of that tight end room, we're talking about Johnny Munt, we're talking about Bryson Hopkins, Jacob Harris, who is a guy I like, but not anywhere near the level right now as what Gerald Everett was. So none of those guys are commanding more than probably 25, 30 targets on their own end. So we definitely can see a Tyler Higbee kind of re-breakout season, if you will, re-emergence into that top 8 threshold. So that's why I have him just inside my top. He's right at QB or tight end 10 for me. So yeah, I'm excited about that Rams offense as well.
Buy opportunity and buy offenses. That's what I care about in fantasy football. I am sad, I will say, that we did not cover Adam Troutman. I was really looking forward to that. Me and Christian had a very spirited debate in our Discord, which you can see in the link over here. We have a Discord channel, and we'd love to see everybody over there. But we had a really, really good debate on that. I won clearly. That why Adam Troutman is a breakout tight end and somebody should be targeting in the later rounds. But I was sad that we didn't get to talk about him. But
you know what, Kev? I think we have time to give him a little bit of bonus content. So why don't we toss it over to Christian to tell us why he thinks Adam Troutman's not quite as high as you have him. Let's give the listeners a little bit of a bonus name here in Adam Troutman.
All you can literally point to is that there's no one else there to catch the ball. I mean, it's not like he's even a great prospect or anything. I mean, he went to Dayton. He doesn't have high draft capital. He had 16 targets last year for the whole year. A guy I love, Harrison Bryant, had 2.5 times that, playing behind Austin Hooper. So this is a guy that has no competition in front of him, essentially, and he just hasn't done anything. I mean, he's going so high. I guess not so high. We're talking late tight ends here, but like he's going over, I don't have the tight end list in front of me. I didn't realize we were doing this bonus content, but I'm baffled. Like I barely even have him top 20. I mean, the guy has done absolutely nothing. He doesn't have pedigree. And it's literally just that there's no one there. That's literally it. Like I love situations where there's no one there. I've banged the drum for Mike Davis this year, but Mike Davis has an RB1 finish in his career. This guy doesn't even have a season where he's had more than 1 target per game. Now, granted, it's only been 1 season, but getting on the field is important. A guy, like I said, like Harrison Bryant saw the field 2.5 times more than Adam Troutman did last year. Like this guy barely played, and I'm supposed to draft him as a top 10 tight end. Like I haven't even seen him run routes really. So I just think it's extremely premature. I want to see him at least, have 300 yards in a season before I'm taking him in the top 10 at tight end,
Well, that's the great thing. You don't have to take him in the top 10. That's the great thing about Adam Troutman is that he's not going in the top 10. And so you don't have to worry about that. He's going around the 13th round, according to Fantasy Football Calculator. And which is, at that point, you're taking you're throwing darts. And if you decide to wait on a tight end, or if you, so be it, want to take him as your second tight end, you could certainly do that. But the thing is, though, is like, I don't know what we talk about with draft capital. I mean, he was a 3rd round pick. And so it's not like he was a 7th round pick or something like that. He absolutely dominated the Senior Bowl. That's what really helped him and get picked by the 3rd round. It's not to mention the fact that the Saints literally traded all the rest of their picks to move up to get Adam Troutman. He is an athletic guy. I think the opportunity is definitely there, especially for the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season, however long Michael Thomas is out, because they have nobody else to throw the ball to. It's Traquan Smith, who we've been waiting on for years to put it all together, that has never been able to do so. It's Marquez Callaway and Alvin Kamara, right? And so for Adam Troutman, I think you're undervaluing how the level of prospect that he was. Yes, he's not a Kyle Pitts type prospect or anything like that.
He's Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas is who he is. Athletic tight end.
Ian Thomas never was.
He's the starting guy.
He's situation. And like I said, I am going to always chase opportunity in fantasy football because that's
you have him ahead of Mike Gesicki. How is he ahead of Mike Gesicki? How does that make sense?
How is he ahead of who?
How was Troutman ranked ahead of Mike Gesicki in your rankings?
Exactly what I just said. Opportunity.
Mike Gesicki doesn't have opportunity. He's the most reliable target on his team.
Will Fuller ahead of him. Not whenever he's going to have Devontae Parker ahead of him. Not when he could have Jalen Waddle ahead of him. Like literally, who's going to be ahead of Adam Troutman? Who? Like who? Who's the guy? Who's the guy we're excited about here? Like is it Traquan? Is it Marquez Callaway? I mean, it's Alvin Kamara. That in list. And so that's what I'm buying into. And like I said, when you're buying somebody in the 13th round, you're not like everything else goes out the window because you're just taking shots on guys anyways there and hope it hits. We see it every year, though. Almost every year, there's one of these tight ends, and they almost always pay off. Like Austin Hooper a couple of years ago, he was the guy. It was Austin Hooper's season. We're buying Austin Hooper. He's breaking out. What did he do?
That was his 4th or 5th year in the league when he broke out.
I'm throwing out examples for you here. Okay, Darren Waller, same thing. Darren Waller had done nothing in his career. Whatever, the hype was immense for Darren Waller. I was all about Darren Waller. Right, broke out. I could say the same thing about Julius Thomas. I was all aboard the Julius Thomas train when I was in the streets by myself clamoring for Julius Thomas, right? Because of opportunity, the offense that he was going to be on, Julius Thomas exploded and won people championships that year. Adam Troutman is in the same situation.
I think Ian Thomas and Chris Herndon are the names you're looking for.
Quarterback and Peyton Manning. But what I'm saying is that the opportunity, the path for opportunity is there for him. If he does not work, you just drop him and it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt anything. Because most of these guys you draft 12th, 13th, 14th round, you're dropping anyway. So I'm going to take a shot. If I decide to wait on tight end, right, I will take a shot on Adam Troutman breaking out in 2021 and with the opportunity that he's going to have. It's that simple, right? When you bring up Harrison Bryant's in a situation where Austin Hooper is still there and Odell Beckham is still there.
Well, and to be clear, I wouldn't take Harrison Bryant over Adam Troutman in redraft this year. I'm just telling you.
I'm just saying you brought him
Harrison
up.
Bryant is a guy in the same class
I just don't care.
2.5 times the amount of targets Troutman did last year.
I don't care what he did last year.
As the 7th guy in pecking order in Cleveland.
We always listen. Most tight ends don't do dick their first year anyway, right? Nothing. And so I'm not worried about what he did last year. I don't care that he only had 16 targets. None of that matters to me. All I care about is the opportunity that lays before him right now. They clearly feel good about him. They did not bring anybody else in. They did nothing to improve that position.
Had no money.
They absolutely love him. With
the cost you're getting him again. You just said it. You're not taking risks taking him that late. If you love him, take him. I would rather take Mike Gesicki at that point. Like why am I taking him over Mike Gesicki? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'll kind of finish this out because I think that's the difference in why we have this ranking, right? We're not talking about where you can get this guy. We're talking about where we have him ranked, right? Like we think this guy for Kev is going to be a top 10 tight end. Where I think I'm a little bit more on Christian's side where. Kev, there's nobody there. I don't think we realize how bad this offense can actually be. Like we're used to the Saints being this great offense. We have no Drew Brees. We have no Michael Thomas. We literally have nobody. Traquan Smith and Adam Troutman are leading this receiving crew. And I think this we've seen a lot of times where we're like, oh, he's the only guy in town. It's like, well, this offense is going to be absolutely terrible. If he scores 3 or 4 touchdowns, it'll be amazing, right? Like they could have that season where they only have a Daniel Jones 11 passing touchdowns on the season. So that's where I'd say a little bit of caution to the only show in town argument is because this could just be a very bad offense. And I don't know who the quarterback is, so that could go either way. But there's definitely the volume and the potential could be there, but the efficiency, the touchdown potential, I think is where I might side a little bit more with Christian. But I do think we gave the listeners a little bit of that bonus content that they needed. We took the gloves off.
That's why they need to hop in the Discord. That stuff happens every day.
I feel like me and Christian at least once a week, if not more, battle out on something. A lot of times it's Missouri versus Tennessee, but we've had that debate like 3 different times.
I get excited when I meet fans of other shitty teams in the SEC. It's like, oh, yes, a non-Alabama or Georgia fan. This is great.
Coming to you next, we will have a college edition of the TFA live show here. So we're going to close this out. So we talked about 3 tight ends plus a little bit of extra content here of guys that we view differently. And we told you guys about the good and the bad of some of these players. So we hope you guys jump into the comments. Tell us why you think a certain player will be better or worse for fantasy teams here in 2021. And stay tuned because we have the quarterbacks and the running backs, which we're excited to get into. There's going to be a lot of disagreements, I think, in those 2 positions as well. So keep it locked in on the TFA airwaves here. See you next time.